exceeded the requirement for open space. I think we've designed this to stay out of any drainage areas. Quite frankly, I think it's probably one of the best plans designed, taking into consideration the overall ordinances with an OSRD. With that, I'd like to address any questions or concerns that you all may have, or anybody from the public as well.
Okay. Anyone on council have questions?
That's a quick question.
Yes, sir.
You probably covered it and I just missed it. How do you pipe that stream?
There's several different ways. What we'll try to do to minimize that impact is basically whenever the engineer calculates the drainage areas, you can either do it by doing slopes or the segmental block walls. And whatever would create the least amount of impact would be the most likely way that would be required to do that. So whatever the engineer would be able to design along with whatever would be required, if there will be a permit that has to be issued from the Army Corps of Engineers, and whatever they would require would be that case. And I'm pretty sure, feel pretty confident that even the segmental block wall, with this small the crossing it is, the cost is minimal, and it have the least of any impact that you'd have on that. And that's what we used at Henson Forest, because we did cross a stream at Henson Forest that had an endangered species, the Carolina snail darter, in it. And we used the segmental block wall, so we didn't create an area that caused a greater impact. We created less impact by doing a 1-to-1 slope versus a 3-to-1 slope.
Anyone else have any questions?
Percentage of open space, Paul? I didn't catch that.
I don't know exactly what the percentage is. It's on the plan, if I'm not mistaken, but I think out of 157 acres, correct me if I'm wrong, please do, the percentage of open space?
About 65% of the land.
Yeah, I want to say it's about 98 acres out of 157. And what we also did along the Hall River, if you see this area here, and this line right there, you get into slopes that, you have some magnificent bluffs that overlook the Hall River there. It has no building purpose whatsoever. It's all for Mother Nature and whatever she wants to allow to let Mother Nature do over there. I also feel like we've allowed lots of areas for animal corridor movement as well. We also provided a stub out into an additional piece of property that the Wilson family owns that's tied into Lake Brent Road that they do not wish to sell. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I walked it. It's a nice piece of property.
It's a gorgeous piece of real estate, and I think with the fact that the RS-40's there, it's just a matter of time before it gets developed. And I think this plan right here, and I'm not trying to boast, but I think our land planners did an excellent job with it.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in favor of the rezoning?
I'm Donald Wilson, 1827 Scalesville Road. Our family owns this property, and I don't have anything else to add to the plan. I think you did a good job, and I'd just like to recommend you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of the rezoning? And we'll close that portion. Anyone to speak in opposition to the rezoning? Please come forward. State your name and address.
Sure. I'm David Wilcox. This is my wife Eva. Address is 3404 Squirrel Chase Drive in Summerfield. And to use the map, we're about here. 1.9 acres of wooded area. And we agree also, it's a beautiful piece of real estate. We really have enjoyed our 4 years in Summerfield, and being in a place where we're surrounded by nature. And we met with Paul. We're one of the concerned homeowners that met with Paul. And being an adjacent property owner, we're pretty concerned with plans to build in the area. Some of those concerns basically are coming out onto Lake Brant Road. The proposed main road here that comes out I don't know if any of you have seen this area, but it sits on a pretty dangerous curve. I know coming out my morning commute from Squirrel Chase Drive, and we're not talking about the suburbs here, I have to wait a bit, and I have very poor visibility down that hill on Lake Brent. I can't imagine a main entrance servicing 89 houses, or even half that volume if it was split between the two entrances, being able to handle that amount of traffic. So that's a safety concern. That's the first concern.
Also, the traffic speed coming through that area is traveling at a fairly high rate of speed in the morning. People on their, AM commute to work. Many times I've pulled out of Squirrel Chase Drive, not thinking there was a car behind me. I didn't see it. I looked very carefully before pulling out. And as I get out onto the road and I look in my rear view mirror, and there was a vehicle right on my rear end coming up from around that curve at a high rate of speed. So I'm very concerned about the traffic flow pattern coming through there, servicing 89 houses. I mean, if each one of those new houses has only one car, one vehicle, that's 89 more vehicles. And most homes now have 2 and 3 cars. So the traffic flow is a very, very disturbing matter to me. I think that it's going to make Lake Brent Road a very dangerous area to travel. And much like 220 during rush hour, it's a very, very congested area. When you're coming home, traffic is backed up for, a good mile sometimes, and you're waiting for a long time to get to your destination because of the increased traffic flow.
Other concerns that we have, of course, are to the wildlife in the area. We see all kinds of wildlife that comes to our backyard, and the disruption that's going to happen once they start to build there. No matter how much of that area you leave for wildlife, you're still going to disrupt some natural habitats and some homes, some wildlife homes. Other concerns that we have are, from what we've been told, there's a vein of rock that runs through this area, the proposed main road. And we're wondering, if it requires blasting. And I know basically I did a little legwork on that. I guess the fire marshal comes out and inspects the houses prior to and after the blasting. But what kind of liability if there's falling rocks onto the property? Is that something we're expected to let our homeowners insurance take care of, or is that something that the developer's going to be responsible for? That's one of the concerns. The other one is when he actually puts in this community well, there are private wells in the 14 established homes in the area. What happens if our water levels drop? Who's going to assume liability for that? Will we be tied into the community well? And if so, is that going to cost us money to do that? There's a lot of concerns that we have around the natural resources in the area too. How much is too much, I guess, in Summerfield or in an area like this? When does it become an overload, for the community, for the resources in the community, such as the traffic patterns and the natural resources that we have?
On the website, mentions Summerfield as being an area of tranquility. When you have all of these new homes being built and increasing the population in the area, where is the tranquility? I mean, that's why my husband and I chose Summerfield was because it was out in a rural area where you had a lot of wildlife around you. It was a beautiful part of the state, and it just seems very disappointing to see that go.
Especially in your own backyard. And I'm sure if you ask yourselves why you moved to Summerfield or why you've been a part of the community, I'm sure some of you were born and raised here, and we were not, and moved here just because of the peace, the tranquility, and the fact that we didn't want to live in a subdivision. We could have lived in Greensboro somewhere if we wanted to do that. We both work over at Moses Cone Hospital. So that's pretty much what we have to say on it. We ask you to really consider this, especially the safety issues. We're very concerned with that, and it could be a very potentially dangerous spot. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition to the rezoning? If If not, we'll close that portion. Did you have anything you wanted to respond to?
I appreciate